Hillary Clinton broke the law, and she didn't get indicted. Joe Biden broke the law, and in many other ways we're finding out, and so far has not gotten indicted. I did everything right, and they indicted me.
And they indicted me. Yeah, they say this guy is like, people want to be around him and he's charismatic. I don't know, it's hard to listen to. But still, Donald Trump, they're talking in Bedminster after all of his arraignment went down for all of those stolen documents. And he took time to talk about what was going on. A nice piece of the time talking about what's been going on, because he doesn't know how to stop talking about the trouble that he's in. Still, he took some time to deflect away from all these things that was going on, the details, actually what he might be facing as well. And instead, he went and talked about how he was a huge victim and his political opponents were after him. I thought he was a strong guy, but let's let him talk about that.
Today, we witnessed the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges of which he and numerous other presidents would be guilty, right in the middle of a presidential election in which he is losing very badly. This is called election interference, and yet another attempt to rig and steal a presidential election. More importantly, it's a political persecution like something straight out of a fascist or a communist nation. This day will go down in infamy, and Joe Biden will forever be remembered as not only the most corrupt president in the history of our country, but perhaps even more importantly, the president who, together with a band of his closest thugs, misfits, and Marxists, tried to destroy American democracy.
It seems to be a collection of trigger words that spark all the time for these folks. But also, you point out being in the middle of an election. Are we in the middle of an election? Is Donald Trump running against Joe Biden right now in the middle of an election? Because I'm sure if Joe Biden said we're in the middle of an election, they'd say, why aren't you presidenting? You're talking about elections only. Well, this is the basis for why he's even talking about these things, because he's still concerned about his power and maybe a way to get away from these accusations, these investigations, and oh yeah, that evidence that showed up about it though. By the way, he also, Ben, before you jump in, there's one more part here when he's talking about how the reasons why. Here's some excuse moments now for him. Let's watch.
The decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during the president's term and in the president's sole discretion. You're surprised to hear that, aren't you? Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917 wasn't meant for this. An act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, and threatening me with 400 years in prison for possessing my own presidential papers, which just about every other president has done.
Well, he keeps moving and deflecting. I'm not sure if it's really working. I'm trying to put myself in the minds of the folks that are following him, and throughout this whole time they have been. And you hear things like this, and you go, wait a second. This makes sense despite the things that I've seen as his normal process for doing stuff quite publicly. Every time he digs himself a little bit deeper in the hole with these types of speeches right afterwards. Is he really concerned about 400 years in prison? What's your thoughts here, Ben? There's more though.
Listen, I'm very open. I'm very open for him to either get 400 years in prison or the death penalty, whichever comes first. Don't pass go, don't collect $200. Like I said yesterday, he is probably the only person in history who would easily survive 400 years in prison, would come out for year 401. I'm running again. It's very exciting. The AI has been fully implanted and I will live forever. So nothing, there's no way to escape this cockroach of a person. And he's just insane. I don't know how people that claim to care about having a strong leader can possibly get turned on by a man who goes, they indicted me. He makes Jerry Lewis look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's incredible. Hey ladies, stop indicting me, please. I mean, it's the most absurd, silly, sad thing in the world. You're right, he just throws out terms there without even meaning. Straight up, he goes, this is a communist government or fascist, or maybe it's socialist. this government, maybe it's democratic. I don't know words. I just know how to rile people up and push their buttons. Hit this flower. Oh, you got squirted in the eye. He is a carnival barker and he's a criminal, and people want that in their leaders, and you got to respect it. Or do you not?
It's a shame that is actually sometimes, in more cases than not, become the reasons behind it. I'm very proud that I got the Jerry Lewis reference there. Am I right? See, now I feel like I'm saying the wrong name.
You're damn right.
Hey,
You're saying it right. There you go. There it is.
Come on, fabulous. Come on, let's
the nutty professor, Donald J. Trump. I've got, by the way, Jerry Lewis's briefcase right there here in my desk. It was gifted to me a long time ago. Not that really matters to anybody. Hell, I'll show it to you since I mentioned it. Boom, there it is. Jerry Lewis's briefcase right there.
Well, that gives you the complete authority to make as many impressions as you'd like about him. One more piece about this, though, you guys. I want to point out what he said at the top of this in the videos. He said Biden had his top political opponent arrested in the middle of an election. Top political opponent. Weird, because Fox News had this whole thing where they had detached and seemed had pushed away from Donald Trump. Yet there was this one moment that many folks noticed on Twitter. Kat Abu was one of them specifically. She says, this wasn't edited at all, but look at the chyron here in this split screen that they have of the former president and the current president speaking. It says, wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested. That's what's going on. By the way, in case you guys didn't know, that wannabe dictator, quote unquote, from Fox News is saying is Joe Biden talking about their Juneteenth celebration, where also he had announced that they were trying to make this a national holiday and all of that. So the content of what he's talking about, they want to take that and then talk about political dictator or wannabe dictator and having his political rival arrested. How much do they care about that type of stuff that's going on? Or maybe these initiatives that this current president is pushing. They use anything that they can and actually bastardize anything else that's going on. A little bit more though, because all these outlets, of course, are still talking about and giving an excuse for the next person. What about and what about and what about? If you thought it was just Joe Biden and maybe even Hunter, no. As Kevin Cruz points out, it's also the Clintons, specifically one of them. He says, it's July 1998 and I'm listening to Fox News rant about Hillary Clinton. It's October of 2008 and I'm listening to Fox News rant about Hillary Clinton. It's February of 2015. I think you guys know where this is going. Fox News is ranting about Hillary Clinton. And lastly, it's June of 23. And I'm listening to Fox. Check out that chyron. Hillary destroyed her devices with hammers. I think we've been through all of this before. It's constant. One more though, because we talked about this earlier on TDR as well. As this was getting run, of course, his whole run to this. I'm curious what you think about this though, Ben, and this approach, and if it's something that's actually helpful, or if it's something that people are then gonna wanna look closer into. Because Jake Tapper over on CNN pointed out that they weren't running this. Watch.
We do have now some of the sound, as I told you. We're not, and the audience, we're not carrying his remarks live because frankly, he says a lot of things that are not true and sometimes potentially dangerous.
Correct move? I don't know, man. What do you think?
Oh, 100% correct move. CNN can always be counted on to do the correct move and not air Donald Trump live. What's that? Oh yeah, they just did a 2-hour town hall with him just a week and a half ago. Right, got it. Yeah, so they're a little inconsistent on that, but they also did fire their new boss. So maybe there's new sheriffs in town there that are having maybe something a little bit more sensical when it comes to whether or not they air live or even air at all, perhaps, these straight up traitorous lies of somebody trying to tear down our government bit by little bit every day. So that's nice, but also it seemed a little bit like Tapper was just saying all that to impress AOC.
It may have been that way as well. Either way, the move at least happens, and maybe they're linking that with that newly fired head at CNN, and that'll be the reasons why things will change. We'll see, but I still think it's worth putting out there if you're going to point out the misconceptions and the blatant lies that he's been pushing as he then goes through all these court proceedings.